Hi, everybody. So I'm Veronica Reynolds. I'm from New City Library. I'm the head of community relations, and I have been at my library for 16 years, and I'm very happy there. Love New City. Love this renovation. I was a big proponent of our renovation. So just as a show of hands, how many of you have the word marketing in your title or your job description? Okay, one. How many of you do marketing anyway? Wow. Love that. So we all have marketing hats on. So I know I said this is about renovation because that's the project I'm concentrating on, but video marketing is kind of a big deal now. I think we can all agree. I don't have a ton of experience being on TikTok, but that kind of vertical thing, all of this could apply to that as well. Video marketing matters. And the last time I was here, so this is actually an update, because I was here just telling people, how do you set up a studio because it's COVID and we're all trying to reach everybody as much as we can. And in the span of about 18 months, I taught myself video editing and edited over 500 videos, which are mostly still up on our YouTube channel. We've taken some down because they were story times that got copyright struck. So I love doing these. I taught myself on the fly, and if I can learn it, you can too. So first I want to draw your attention to this beautiful painting. This was a photo I took and then ran a Photoshop script on. Isn't it lovely? So you too can do this with no talent whatsoever. So we began our renovation at a perfect time, which was directly as we were recovering from COVID. We were back in full time, programming was normal, and then we started our renovation. In fairness, this was always the time we were going to renovate. I think it is important to note, to be fair, we were very fortunate. We did not have to go to bond for our renovation. Our board and our amazing director, Marianne Gallagher, planned accordingly so that we did not have to go to bond. We didn't raise taxes beyond our usual under the 2% tax cap to do the renovation. If you want a funding talk, that's somebody else, but that's my talk point so people know where I'm coming from. So I wasn't marketing to convince people to vote, but I was marketing the renovation to convince people it was a good idea. And if you think that shouldn't be a problem, I just had a conversation with someone in this room who's still mad about our renovation. So there you go. Nobody likes things to change. But we did it anyway. So in the winter of 2022, we packed up our library. We moved to a temporary location. We advertised that move everywhere we could, a newsletter, an e-newsletter, a website, on social media, on YouTube. I made, designed, and had printed a 10-foot wide banner that says, "We're not here, come to 198." And it worked so well that the construction people had to turn away people who walked past the construction barriers on a weekly basis, including a woman with a baby stroller, who rolled right into a demoing building. So just be aware, we've all made those mistakes in our lives, and every time you've done it, 40 other people have done it. So I'm not going to tell you it's perfect, but this is how you reach most people. So we wanted to keep the community informed and invested because we were going to be closed, and we're closed for 18 months. We opened almost to the day we said we were going to. We were like about a month off, which was, as you know, in construction terms, literally a miracle. I had nothing to do with it, but I'll take credit because I'm standing here. And it was great. So, but we had to keep people informed that whole time. So YouTube became a really strong platform during the library's closures during COVID. So we continued there as well. So I'm just going to do the technical details real fast. I started working in Final Cut Pro, but I started in iMovie, which just comes with every Mac. You don't even have to have a new Mac. If you have an old Mac lying around, somebody's kid isn't using theirs anymore, you have iMovie. It's a free movie editing software. There are Windows equivalents, but I think iMovie is just a nicer starting piece of software, and you can learn it really quick. If you have LinkedIn Learning, there's like 37 tutorials on iMovie in there, and you can teach yourself like lickety-split how to edit. I used Photoshop for our thumbnails because I was already familiar with it. I know there's a lot of people in here probably using Canva. Canva is fine. Canva already has like a structure to make thumbnails. I filmed and took photos on my iPhone for the most part. It wasn't a particularly exciting iPhone. It was just what I had in my pocket, and that's what I took all the footage on. I didn't use any stock photography or video, but when I have used those, there are free resources. Pixabay and Pexel, both are free online resources with stock photography and stock video. So if you're just looking for stock video, they both have those as well. I use those for our big screen because we now have a TV in the lobby that has programming. I do that video. It's all off of stock video that I float stuff over. Voiceover tracks, I just recorded on the built-in laptop microphone. I didn't have any fancy recording stuff. It was just me in an office telling people to stop knocking on my door and sometimes the phone would ring and I'd have to start over. So my tip to you, knock your voiceover script out in about 2-minute increments. So if you have to re-record, you're not starting over from the beginning. All this software and everything was in place because we had set up all of this stuff to record videos during COVID. But even if you didn't, most of it's pretty attainable, I think. And there's always TechSoup if you're trying to get stuff for a lower price. All right. I love a style guide because I've gone to a lot of marketing talks. So we wanted to create a cohesive look. I'm going to say we a lot here. When it comes to the videos, it's kind of just me. I did have a lot of great people contributing during COVID, but when it came to the renovation videos, and just so you know, if you don't have a lot of staff time, you can do this with just one person. It is doable. So I made sure they all had the same kind of general same thumbnail, so they looked a piece. I put them in a playlist. DRM-free music. YouTube has a whole library of DRM-free music, so you can just grab all of those songs. And if you have a kid in your life, you've heard the DRM-free music of a YouTube video. It probably echoes through your life. I'm hearing it play in my head right now. I deliberately tried to keep these short. You can see all the timings on there. The longest video is 3 minutes because we were just talking about that. You keep it short, you keep it moving. I used footage and still photos. There's a thing in iMovie called the Ken Burns zoom, which is that documentary zoom. I used that liberally, so everything was moving. Very little is still on the screen. And it's just me voicing over all of these videos. I would write a script up beforehand, which I would highly recommend. You think you can do it off the dome and you can't. And my voice is familiar to a lot of people because just over the years, I've become the voice that's on the phones. By accident, I'm the voice on pretty much every phone in the building, which I've been told by my patrons is now confusing when they're looking for me because they think they've reached me wherever they've called. So I started right from the beginning. So anytime you announce a renovation or a project like this, there's a lot of questions. So the first video went out a couple months ahead of the move, just explaining why the renovation was happening. By then, my script was really easy because I'd been repeating this stuff to patrons in person for months. So I had a very slick thing that I did. It was the most successful video of the playlist with 1,300 hits. I know in YouTube parlance, that's not a lot, but in library YouTube parlance, it's pretty good. I was not able to get the audio to come with me, but that's fine because it's just me talking over these things anyway. Oh, that's the wrong one. Go back. Here we go. So one of the things that I wanted to hit on when we were explaining stuff, our storytime room was in the basement, which was a problem for a lot of reasons. But one was that it wasn't accessible. This is very cute. This is our cardboard. So that was our old meeting room. This was how long it took to get downstairs. I fast forwarded this. This is how long it took to get down to storytime room. Now imagine you have a little kid with you. Right? And what an appealing room. Look how great it was. And that's our children's programming. So that's how many programs we're having in there. And this was the architect's footage of what it was going to look like when it was done. So that's basically what this first video was explaining why we needed this renovation. So yeah, I walked down those stairs thinking like, I don't know if this is going to be dramatically effective. And then I literally had to speed it up because it took me so long to get down there. And it was a dark basement with one window. In progress updates became really critical because we weren't there. You know, that it was going to be much faster and cheaper to do the renovation all at once with us not in the building. But that meant that people couldn't see things were happening. Most of what was going on in our building and was being changed was inside. So people would drive past and be like, nothing's happening in there. I'm not seeing anything happening. Understandable. They literally could not. So a lot of these updates, one of which you're about to see without sound, a lot of the patrons saw without sound because if I can give you one tip, we just bought a digital photo frame. In fact, I think someone donated one to us. I don't even think we bought it. They're not expensive. You can load a video on it, and we had it just playing on loop at the reference desk. And when I say reference desk, it was like smaller than this, and it was in a corner because 198, woo, we were tight. But we had that going, and the reference librarians would sometimes like just turn their screen around and show the video to a patron who was curious about what was happening. So I made about 4 of these in progress videos. I like this one because you can really see stuff starting to come together. You know, I was showing this is what the building looked like. You can imagine my voice and some cheery music playing in the background. That was the architectural rendering. And then what was really exciting, I lingered on this too long. There we go. That's what it finally looked like. So people could see stuff was actually happening. This was the reference desk before, you know, things of that nature. Now, at the very end, this was my least successful video, but in fairness, we had been open for about a year by the time I made this one. I took it to the RCLS advocacy breakfast, legislative breakfast. So I had this playing on loop just to show the legislators what had been done. Really good to get contrast here. So that was our circulation desk. This was from 2019. We'd happened to do a walkthrough. This was after. The photos don't even look real because they were done by a professional photographer, so they look CGI, but I swear this is what the library looks like now. So that's with the COVID screens, you can see how dark and cluttered it was. This is our new welcome desk. They did pose us kind of unnaturally, so that's also why we look very stiff. This was my meeting room. This is where I had all of my adult programs, looking especially good with the furniture behind the screen, all cluttered up. And this is my meeting room now. So things like that, they're nice, they're dramatic. It's really easy to show somebody in a matter of seconds, even with the sound off. So the value sneak peeks of showing these things in the course, they were able to visualize the building changing long before it opened. It generated a sense of involvement and documentation, which dissipated some of renovation skeptics, people who thought nothing was happening, people who thought nothing needed to be done to the building. It gave the front desk a tool when they were questioned about the progress. And people don't like it when they perceive information as being withheld. There was a lot of feeling that this had snuck up on people because as much as we try to communicate, most of our communications are limited to people who are already tuned in. So anybody who was new to the area or who wasn't a habitual library user, we've been open now 18 months and we absolutely get people every day. We're like, oh, I haven't been back since you renovated, which is great. We're so happy to have you back, but you might have missed big swaths of information because you weren't there. It's also great for the value of documentation. Our memories of the time between are already fading. People have already forgotten what it used to look like. Because I do get people saying like, well, I loved the old building. I'd say, well, that room was really dark. I couldn't take photos in it. And they were like, oh, I don't remember it being really dark. And I'm like, and the screen didn't go all the way up anymore and hadn't for a decade. And they're like, oh, I don't really remember that being. I'm like, and all the blinds were broken. And we had garbage cans catching water on the ground. Someone was reminiscing about the time we had a swimming pool catching the water. We tried really hard to make the library look as good as possible. We were not in that vein of like, let it fall apart so people will make sure we get a renovation. So I think we were able to like gloss over some of it, but it documents it. What we did just to keep the history alive as well is we do have images from the previous versions of the library in all of our group study rooms. Okay, time for questions. No? I can't advocate enough for doing video documentation, even in addition to photos, because I can't tell you how much people have forgotten what our library used to look like. When I showed people who worked there this video, they could no longer recall these spaces looking like this, because in their memory, it's already coded as beautiful and new and fresh. So that was my sign. I made that fiction mystery sign. I mean, it's just a night and day progress. Things had become so aged, but we didn't see it. I love that guy scared me every night. I love David Tennant, but not outside my office at 9:00 at night. So our teen room area, I mean, it's not to show off the renovation, although we're very proud of it, but to remember to where you came from and not to leave that behind. I did forget to include my contact information, but I'm V. Reynolds at New City Library. I'd love to talk to anybody about anything they want to know. Am I good?